So today we're diving into one of the most fascinating and, let's be honest, morally complicated laws of power. It's a strategy that takes our most cherished virtue, honesty, and turns it into one of the most devastating weapons you can imagine. And to really get how this works, we've got to go back in time. Picture this. It's Chicago, 1926. Prohibition is in full swing. The city's a playground for organized crime, and it's run by, well, one of the most paranoid and dangerous guys in history. And right into this lion's den walks a man named Victor Lustig, a con artist who was basically a legend in his own time. And his target? The one and only Al Capone. Now this isn't just some business meeting, this is the kind of high-stakes gamble where if you mess up, you don't just lose a deal, you might lose your life.
Lustig makes this incredibly bold pitch. He asks Capone for a cool $50,000. Now you have to remember, back then that was an insane amount of money. And he makes a promise that sounds almost too good to be true. He looks Capone dead in the eye and says he can double it in just 60 days. Now Capone, he's heard it all, right? He's surrounded by crooks. He's skeptical, for sure, but he's intrigued. So he gives him the cash. And what does our con man Lustig do with it? Does he invest it? Nope. He just sticks it in a safety deposit box and does absolutely nothing.
2 months go by. Lustig walks back into Capone's office, looking totally defeated. He confesses the whole investment scheme was a complete bust. He apologizes, and then he does something absolutely unheard of in Capone's world. He hands back the entire 50 grand.
I mean, Capone is just floored. This guy has seen it all, people trying to scam him left and right, but someone returning money out of integrity? It just completely short-circuits his brain. All his defenses just melt away. And get this, he actually rewards Lustig, gives him $5,000 just for being so honest.
So that's the big question, isn't it? How on earth does someone walk into the office of America's most wanted gangster, admit to a total failure, and walk out 5 grand richer? Well, the answer is just a masterclass in psychological warfare.
You see, this wasn't a failure at all, not even close. It was a perfect textbook execution of what Robert Greene calls Law 12 of the 48 Laws of Power, using selective honesty to disarm your victim. The whole doubling the money thing, that was never the plan. The real target was always that $5,000 reward.
Okay, so what is selective honesty, really? It's got nothing to do with being a good person. Think of it more like a weapon. It's the art of picking one single, well-timed moment to be brutally honest, maybe even admit a weakness. And that one honest act punches a hole right through someone's defenses, giving you cover for all the other stuff you're trying to pull.
This quote really nails it. That one single move, giving back the money, did way more than just earn Lustig a quick payday. It bought him something priceless, a reputation. With Capone, of all people, Capone now thought of him as the honest guy. And you could bet that perception was worth a whole lot more than 50 grand in the long run.
All right, so let's break down the psychology here. Why does this work so unbelievably well? I mean, why would a guy like Al Capone, a total expert in backstabbing and betrayal, fall for this? It's because this kind of move hijacks our deepest, most primal instincts about trust. When someone does something unexpectedly honest, it's like it sets off a chain reaction in our brains. First, you've got the reciprocity bias. You know, that feeling that if someone does you a favor, you have to do one back. Then there's this weird mental glitch where it's tough to believe someone is both honest and a liar at the same time. So what do? We usually just stick with our first impression. And in this case, that impression was honesty. Lustig played on all of these at once. It was brilliant. Really, the best way to think about it is like the Trojan horse. You know the story? The Greeks couldn't get through the walls of Troy with brute force, so they offered a gift. Same idea here. Lustig couldn't get through Capone's wall of pure suspicion with a normal con, so what did he do? He offered a gift, the gift of honesty. It looks noble, it looks harmless, but it's designed to be brought right inside the gates so it can open them from within.
And what's so wild is the emotional effect this has. The book talks about how these kinds of gestures can make the target almost childlike. Think about it. That sudden rush of feeling valued and respected, especially from someone you were expecting to screw you over, it just completely shuts down your logical brain. You stop thinking and you start feeling.
Okay, so we get the why. Now let's talk about the how. How is this actually put into practice? Because this isn't just about being honest at random moments. No, this is a calculated performance. It needs a playbook, and the timing has to be perfect. A classic move is what's called the sandwich technique. It's pretty straightforward. First, you start with a slice of truth. You admit to some small, maybe even slightly embarrassing mistake. That's your disarming move. It shows you're not perfect. Then, you slide in the lie, the actual deception you're aiming for. And you finish it off with another slice of truth or some generous act. It leaves them with this warm, fuzzy feeling of your incredible integrity.
But the timing here is everything. This is a first-strike weapon. It's most powerful right at the beginning of a relationship. That first act of honesty, it builds up what you could call a trust reservoir. Every little honest thing you do adds to it, so that when you need to make a big withdrawal for your real deception, you've got plenty of trust to burn.
Now, this all sounds pretty unstoppable, right? But it's not. This law is super risky. And more importantly, there are ways to defend yourself against it. And honestly, knowing how it can blow up in your face is just as important as knowing how it works.
So here's the game, and here's the countermove. The person using this wants to make you feel like you owe them something. So, your move? Politely turn down gifts or favors you didn't ask for. They're trying to build a whole story about how trustworthy they are. Your defense? Look at every single action on its own. The best thing you can do is just keep asking yourself one simple question. Why are they being so honest with me right now?
And this is where we get to the great paradox of this law. Let's call it the paradox of the known liar. See, if you already have a reputation for being shady, this whole strategy is completely useless. In fact, it backfires. A sudden act of honesty from someone nobody trusts, that doesn't make you feel safe. It just makes you more suspicious. You see it for what it is, just another trap.
And man, this is where it gets really dangerous for the person trying to pull this off. If you get caught, if that mask of sincerity slips, the reaction is explosive. All that warmth and trust your victim felt, it instantly flips into pure, violent hatred. Because you didn't just lie to them, you made them look like a fool, and that's something people almost never forgive.
So it all comes back to this one central question. Is honesty just a moral compass, something we should always follow no matter what? Or is it also a tool, maybe even a weapon, in the game of power, meant to be used with surgical precision? The story of Victor Lustig and Al Capone, well, it suggests that the answer isn't nearly as black and white as we'd like to believe.